Hello everyone, Decimus here with a new build video. This one is going to be for my dual wield Stam Sorcerer that some of you may have seen me streaming. So a little bit about the build first. Contrary to the Draugrkin Stam Sorc build I released earlier, this is a very single target oriented build with really absurd amounts of damage. The pressure exerted by this build is so high it can easily be mistaken for burst damage actually. If you're looking for a build with lots of AoE damage and burst instead, I would check out my Blight build instead. Apart from all that, this build has the typical mobility you'd expect from a Stam Sorcerer with a decent sustain and plays in a very hit and run kind of fashion. Defensively you're not the squeeziest thing out there, but not a tank either. Build is mostly made for noCP and works well in smaller fights such as 1v1s, 2v2s, BGs and similar. For bigger group fights I would recommend running the Blight build instead. Right, with that out of the way, let's get started with the gear we use. The most important part of the build, 5 pieces of Draugrkin Stam. You might be wondering right now, Desi, why are you running a Magicka set? Isn't this a Stam Sorc? Well, the way this set works is that it adds 617 damage to each different instance of damage you deal. Each source of damage apart from Oblivion damage gains this extra boost, and as it happens, Stam Sorcerer has a lot of different small ticks of damage you deal at any given time, especially when running rapid strikes as your spammable. On rapid strikes alone, Draugrkin provides an almost 60% damage boost when each of the ticks gains 617 extra damage. On Hurricane you gain around 78% more damage, on Deadly Cloak a 55% increase in damage, even on bound armaments you still gain around 20% more damage. In other words, you gain way more damage from this set than you would from any other, including low uptime situational sets like Unchained Aggressor or Clever Alchemist. This more than makes up for the more magic-oriented 2 to 4 piece bonuses, 2 of which can arguably be good from sustain point of view, and the other one actually still buffs all of the shock damage done by this build. Keep in mind that Draugrkin is a single target debuff with 9-second cooldown and 6-second duration, meaning that you want to be really careful whom you hit first in order to proc it, not to proc it on the wrong person. You can recognize the Draugrkin proc by this turquoise haze on the target it's procced on. Best way to run this set on a stamina build is on Jewelry, Belt and one of the main weapons. That way you min-max the armor loss from running one light armor piece while activating the Undaunted passive. The set drops some Unhallowed Grave, which is one of the new dungeons added in Harrowstorm update. The second set we run is Mechanical Acuity. Acuity is very easy to proc with as much direct damage as we have on this. For instance, rapid strikes alone is 5 chances of proccing it, then we have Deadly Cloak, bound armaments, light attacks, off-bar enchants, streak, and a few other sources of damage that can proc it. What this means is that Acuity is almost guaranteed to instantly proc when you go on the offense, which results in a lot more pressure as all those already Draugrkin empowered hits are now guaranteed to crit. You also gain more survivability from this set as that 100% crit chance also applies to your vigor heals and guarantees crit surge heals every second, greatly improving survivability for this period. The hit and run kind of playstyle you have on Stam Sorcerer means that the 13-second cooldown isn't really that much of a downside. In a crafted set, Acuity also allows you to craft heavy armor chest to min-max the armor gain from running one heavy piece. Rest of the gear will be medium. Alright, the third set we have is Krag. The extra penetration gain from the one piece works really well with Draugrkin, but furthermore the 2-piece proc gains a lot of damage from Draugrkin as it is 3 separate hits. Meaning it is buffed 3 times by Draugrkin and thus is quite burst even when you proc it, which is quite easy to do with this many different sources of damage. The fourth and last set we are running is Black Rose Dual Wield. This gets us a bit of extra survivability with the major protection and makes perfect sense since we're running Deadly Cloak from the off bar anyway, in order to proc those Draugrkin empowered enchants while on the front bar. You can get Black Rose Dual Wield from the Black Rose Prison 4-man arena in Murkmire DLC. As for the traits and enchants, I would recommend running Impenetrable and Triglyphs on all the armor pieces. On the Jewelry I prefer Triune for the extra magicka, but if you're not an orc or a bossmer you might want to consider running Swift in order to hit the speed cap while sprinting, which is quite important for survivability. Jewelry enchants should all be weapon damage. On the main bar I'd run Mace and an Axe and double dot poisons as those also become really powerful with Draugrkin and Acuity. The double dot poison also often procs the poison status effect, which results in even more Draugrkin value. On the back bar I'd run 2 infused daggers to make sure the enchants proc every second from your Deadly Cloak. The enchant should be Fire and Disease, Fire to provide another damage over time effect for Draugrkin and Disease for the chance of proccing minor defile on target, as well as dealing a small amount of damage with the status effect that then gets buffed by Draugrkin. I prefer daggers as those increase your chance of getting crit heals while on the back bar. Running axes or maces makes very little sense as all the damage is done while on the front bar. As Mundus I would recommend running Shadow as it becomes extremely powerful during Acuity proc in particular. As food we are once again running Orchorga Smoked Bearhounds to help the magic and stamina sustain a little bit, and as the damage is already good enough you don't really need the dry food. And as potions I'd actually recommend cycling between health plus armor pots and normal tripods. So what does this cycling mean? It means that you should drink the armor pot before fight and when you're unlikely to run out of resources, and then after you've been fighting and spent your resources you restore them with the tripod. You can easily cycle between potions without having to go into the quickslot wheel by using an add-on such as Greymine's quickslot bar and keybinding the potions. Okay, we can move on to the skills now. On the main bar I have Streak, the main mobility tool, and CC with this build. It is very important with this build that you control your streaks correctly. You want to be at the right distance as you streak in so that you can melee your opponent right away. You also don't want to hit the wrong target and proc the Draugrkin on them instead. Vigor, or a main heal, it's usually a good idea to pop this before streaking in, for instance, if you're expecting to take damage. This way you can more freely use rapid strikes and even get out alive afterwards. Not much else to say about it. Bound Armaments, just having this ability on the bar provides a lot of passive benefits ranging from more light attack damage and stamina to more health and stamina regen. But actually activating and using this skill when you've got 4 stacks is also very beneficial from sustain point of view, as it allows you to deal a bit more damage than rapid strikes at half the cost. Contrary to rapid strikes, the daggers also have 28 meter range, meaning you can use them before streaking in, for instance, which can be very useful. You can also throw them at someone who's out of your melee range trying to escape. That's not all though. After getting at least 1 dagger, you also activate your Expert Summoner passive, which grants you 8% more max health and makes you a bit more tanky, I suppose. I'd guess the game considers the daggers to be bits for this passive at least. Unfortunately, the other rebate passive doesn't return new magicka after throwing out the daggers. Camouflage Hunter. You can run other things on this slot, but I like Camo Hunter for the extra 8% damage with the Minor Berserk and the bit of extra weapon damage you gain. The Major Savagery is also useful when mechanical acuity is down. Other skills you can run on this slot include Razor Caltrops. This gets you the Major Fracture, but also slows the build down a bit as you throw down the Caltrops before engaging, which can also be hard to sustain. Deep Thoughts, if you want to make sustain a lot easier at the cost of damage. I wouldn't recommend running Spin to Win as the damage done by Rapid Strikes with Draugrkin up is already more than Execute Range Spin. Rapid Strikes, this is our main spammable with this build and it deals absolutely insane damage when your procs are up. Coincidentally, it is also used for proccing them. You can run Bloodthirst if you like the 1 to 2k heal at the end, but I found myself preferring the damage move, as people often dodge the last hit anyway. As ultimate here we have Temporal Guard. This provides us with more survivability while we're on the offense thanks to the minor protection, as well as a defensive oh shit button you can use to survive situations you normally wouldn't. The skill also activates basic passives while on the front bar, meaning should you ever need to block and streak for instance, you can get a small damage shield while doing so. On the off bar we have Race Against Time, or Snare Removal, and Major Expedition Source. This skill also serves to activate the Psych passive while on the back bar, and provides a lot of extra damage with minor force, especially when Acuity is procced. Deadly Cloak gets us not just major evasion but also major protection thanks to Black Rose Dual Wield. This skill also provides not just 1 but 2 different sources of damage every second while on main bar, as the infused off bar enchants do keep proccing from the ability while on main bar as well. Those enchants can also proc status effects which deal decent damage with Draugrkin procced. Dark Deal, our main sustainability and also used for self heals. As this ability has a cast time, make sure to only use this when it's safe, meaning you're either CC immune or behind line of sight, or you're far away from melee builds chasing you. In some situations you can also usually go for a quick heal and stamina restore after streaking through people and stunning them. Critical Surge provides us with major brutality as well as a lot of passive healing while dealing damage, very important skill to keep up. Hurricane, this gets us major resolve for the extra armor as well as minor expedition for extra mobility. Also deals considerable amounts of damage with Draugrkin procced, and can be very useful for uncloaking Nightblades for instance. As ultimate here, I like to think there's 3 options. Power Overload, this is the better solo play option as you can pocket before going in, and you'll deal insane amounts of extra damage weaving this in between rapid strikes. Power Overload also has a 32 meter range, meaning you can throw it before streaking in and or using bound armaments. You can also use it to proc Draugrkin before streaking in. The other more group play oriented option would be running Charged Atronach, which gets you the Daedric Protection passive on the off bar, resulting in some extra sustain. Much like Overload, Charged Atronach has a massive 28 meter range on the cast, meaning you can drop it far away if people are already fighting there or trying to escape from you. The Atronach kind of acts as a line of sight object, meaning you can use it defensively to soak up hits meant for you. It is also a bit delayed, meaning you can go for the Draugrkin rapid strikes before the thing even lands and stuns people. That's not all though, your allies can also get a Major Berserk 25% damage buff by using a synergy at the Atronach, which can obviously be very useful. Third option would be running Suppression Field. This morph deals damage every half a second, meaning Draugrkin gets more impactful with that. The downside is that people very quickly just dodge or run out of it. I would only run this ultimate in a very organized group setting, where you can have your team root and snare them in place or drop their own ultimates while your opponents are still silenced. I would not recommend running Dawnbreaker with this build, as one Rapid Strike's cast is already about the same damage as Dawnbreaker impact when Draugrkin is active. You want an ultimate that can be precast or is slightly delayed. Alright, that's all the skills. This build is mostly made for noCP, since Draugrkin is much more effective there due to smaller initial tooltips on skills. But if you really want to play this in CP, these are the champion points I'd have. As for which race would be the best for this, there's an easy answer. Any stamina race. The only change I'd make is swapping from Triune Chivalry to Swift if not playing an Orc or Bosmer, just to keep around the same levels of mobility as those races. If you feel like you need more sustain, which is very dependent on individual playstyles, you can always swap Chivalry Glyphs from weapon damage to stamina regen, or even the Moods from Shadow to Serpent, to achieve a level of sustain you're comfortable with. That's basically all you need to do. So these are the stats I have at the end with my Orc Sorcerer. You should have something similar if you followed the build so far. And that's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed the video and are staying healthy during the pandemic. If you have any questions or feedback about the build, feel free to post on the comment section below, or ask me on stream, Twitter, or even on the new Discord server I created. And as always, thanks for watching. See you all next time.